Best wine is made from good stock grapes by a pretty girl.
But David Fussell concedes the better way is with mechanical grape crusher. The grape juice is removed, mixed with yeast and sugar, and then stored in tanks for several months. The grape hulls are fermented with yeast for 2 days. With a little hand labor, last drops of juice are squeezed out.
It keeps the hulls on top from spoiling, and it also allows the yeast to breathe.
The juice is removed and stored in tanks. Several months later, it's bottled. The wine is then aged 1 to 5 years before it's sold. North Carolina was a leader in producing wine until Prohibition. Then, all the wineries were closed down, and by the time interest was rejuvenated here, California and northern states were way ahead of North Carolina in wine producing. The price of grapes fell so low in the mid-1970s that local farmers started Duplin wine cellars to create a market for locally grown grapes. Even with that, only 1/10 of the grapes grown in the state are used by the 3 wineries in North Carolina. The rest go to New York companies.
It's a year-round job, and you cannot make it second. You've got to be give it priority. It's got to be a first in your scheme of things to be successful with it.
Duplin Cellars is experimenting with 16 different wines now and hopes to settle on about 6 brands in the next year. Along with those, there's the house champagne.
It's a long, drawn-out process. It's made from the Carolina Preeminence dry wine, which is our driest dinner wine. So it's really good.
For the wine connoisseur, the taste may be a bit sweet and fruity, but not in the opinion of the tasters here.
This wine is delicious. It's one of the best wines in North Carolina, California, or France.
Delicious, especially since it's from Duplin County.
Brenda Summers, WBTV News, Duplin County.
The new evidence consists of a third confession to the murders. Defense attorneys have submitted this document outlining the confession of Kathy Perry, who claims she was present in the McDonald apartment the night the family was killed. In it, the defense attorneys point out 2 new details in Perry's confession that haven't come out before, but are supported by physical evidence. Perry claims she saw Colette McDonald tied up before she was killed. That, defense attorneys argue, is supported by an autopsy report. And Perry claims she threw one of the children into a closet. Defense attorneys say that is supported by blood and hair found in one of the closets. Federal prosecutor Brian Murtaugh says Kathy Perry's confession is just another in a series of confessions that come out in crimes like these. He asked defense attorneys to decide which confession they would present in McDonald's defense. Brian O'Neill told the court he would present them all.
Well, it's hard to talk, and I really appropriately shouldn't talk about the evidence because
we really shouldn't say anything beyond that. Yep.
After a mid-morning recess, defense attorneys had little to say about their latest attempt at a new trial, but Jeffery McDonald's father-in-law was more willing to talk. He's convinced of McDonald's guilt.
There is nothing in any of the papers that they have filed that would lead me to believe that he even stands a chance of, but as long as he's got money, he's going to be filing papers.
Jeffery McDonald, meanwhile, is serving time in a Texas prison for the 3 murders. He's eligible for parole in 1991. Kassab says he will fight that as well.
It is my contention that he is not eligible for parole on April 5th, 1991. It's a disagreement that I have on the U.S. Code with the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. And if I have standing, I will take them to court as soon as this is all over with.
Graham Wilson, WBTV News, Raleigh.
Earl Jones suffers from a bad heart. He's had 2 heart attacks in the past 2 years and has been hospitalized more times than he likes to remember. Doctors at the regional hospital have told him he needs regular medical care, but that's impossible. Jones lives in Pink Hill in rural eastern North Carolina, and Pink Hill has no doctor.
The closest one I get to is Kingsville, and that's about 16 miles.
Annie Moultrie is recovering from a stroke. She says she has to pay someone to drive her to the nearest doctor.
If a person get really sick, they need a doctor right then. They don't need a doctor time so you can get somebody to decide to carry you and then get you up there.
Medical sociologist Walter Shepard says Pink Hill is not an isolated case.
There are a lot of Pink Hills, not only in eastern North Carolina, but in the mountains all over rural America. There are a lot of Pink Hills.
There is a great need for doctors to serve in rural America, but the need is especially acute here in eastern North Carolina. The 29 counties in eastern North Carolina have just about the highest infant mortality rate in the nation. Too few doctors serve too many people. And in some common fields of medicine, there is only one specialist for the more than 1 million people in the area.
There are not enough of any type of physician in rural America.
Rural practice is tough, often isolating work, lacking the glamour, convenience, and high pay of big city practice. To make rural practice more attractive, East Carolina University and the state are setting up regional medical associations. Based at existing hospitals and associated with the school's new medical center, the network provides rural doctors with access to sophisticated medical technology. The school, opened in 1977, emphasizes primary or family medicine, the type most needed in rural areas.
From the very first week they set foot into medical school, they get involved in primary care. They begin to learn what patients are all about.
It seems to be working. Some 75% of the students, like George Hall of Mount Holly, say they plan to work in underserved areas.
A great deal of us, I think, will be going back to smaller towns, communities.
But the new school's first class has yet to start practicing, and in the past 10 years, there has only been a net gain of 5 new doctors in the entire region. So towns like Pink Hill are forced to take extraordinary measures to attract a doctor. The town plans to build a new medical office as a lure, with money donated by townfolk. Insurance man T.J. Turner headed the fundraising drive.
Well, $35,000 is the amount that we were able to raise locally.
With donations?
Donations from 50 cents to $1,000 from over 900 contributors.
With matching state funds, the new facility should be built by August, and a doctor from New Jersey has pledged to work there for 2 years. The odds that he will stay in town beyond 2 years are statistically slim, but Earl Jones and Annie Moultrie and the rest of the people of Pink Hill are optimistic that their town will buck the trends and bring medical service to their bit of rural North Carolina. Bill Whitaker, WBTV News, Pink Hill.
North Carolina Democrats seem more interested in John Glenn, the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth, than in John Glenn, the U.S. Senator. But it was his role as Senator and Reagan administration critic that brought Glenn to Raleigh to speak to Democrats. During a news conference, Glenn made his position very clear as he called on President Reagan to accept responsibility for the troubles of the country.
It's his budget, it's his foreign policy, it's his defense policy now, and he can no longer go out in the country and run against Washington. He is Washington now.
Glenn, who is mentioned as a possible presidential candidate in 1984, says he's made no decision on that race.
By late sometime this year, I think we'll see how things are going. If I decide to run, it will be for cause, and by that I mean I will not run just to get another line in my biography that I was a presidential candidate sometime. But
Glenn says he wants to concentrate on 1982 elections right now, campaigning to help more Democrats win seats in Congress. And that's what North Carolina Democrats say they'll be doing, trying to regain some of the seats they lost in 1980, so they'll be in good shape in 1984. Brenda Summers, WBTV News, Raleigh.
I don't think about it much myself now, though. I don't give speeches on it. I never have given a speech. I've been offered lecture fees to go places. I didn't find it all that much enjoyable.
Watergate is not a big part of Edmisten's life now, but at one time it was. For more than a year, he served as the #2 lawyer for the Senate committee investigating Watergate. The moment he remembers most is the day the committee subpoenaed President Nixon.
We went in with a subpoena, and Mr. Nixon, he was there, but he didn't personally accept it. I saw him over in the corner, and his assistants accepted the subpoena.
Edmisten says the important lesson from Watergate is that our system of government works.
When Mr. Nixon flew across this country and resigned in midair, you know, the stock market went up and down a little bit, but we didn't lose this country. None of our institutions fell, and it shows that you must keep alive the 3 branches of the government so they can watch over one another.
Edmisten brought a few members of the committee back to North Carolina when he became Attorney General. He admits the attention he received during the hearings helped in his bid for Attorney General.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about that. I think a lot of people had seen me with Senator Ervin, but I don't think it was the deciding factor whatsoever because, very frankly, I had done my homework for years in traveling with the senator, meeting people in the state. And I haven't dwelled on Watergate.
Edmisten's office is cluttered with many of his mementos from the Watergate hearings. He claims the only book he has read about Watergate is the one his boss, Senator Sam Ervin, wrote. Edmisten was probably best known during the hearings because he always sat behind Senator Ervin. Some have claimed Edmisten sat there to get publicity.
You know, that charge has always amused me because cameras were everywhere all the time. So, no, that's ridiculous, but I find it funny.
Brenda Summers, WBTV News, Raleigh.
The population of the coastal village of Manteo swelled today from its usual 900 inhabitants to almost 9,000 as people from across the country braved sometimes inclement weather to help kick off America's 400th anniversary celebration.
Come on, come on!
The celebration commemorates the first English settlement in America in 1584. Although those first colonists vanished in what has come to be known as the Lost Colony, their expedition set the stage for later permanent English settlements. The historic bonds between England and the United States were underscored today by the visit to Manteo by Her Royal Highness, Princess Anne of the United Kingdom.
These celebrations will serve as an important focus on the state of North Carolina and its people. And I hope that everyone will have the opportunity to enjoy and appreciate your unique history.
Accompanied by state and British dignitaries, North Carolina Governor Jim Hunt and Princess Anne dedicated the symbol of the 400th celebration, the Elizabeth II, an authentic replica of the type of 16th century ship that brought the colonists here. And today's celebration is only the beginning of a 3-year commemoration here in North Carolina of that first English colony. And what a beginning it was.
But it's been lovely. We saw the princess and she was beautiful.
It makes the whole trip worthwhile.
Bill Whitaker, WBTV News, Manteo. It was an awesome display of military force. The 18th Airborne Corps performed an airborne and firepower capabilities exercise today. The Corps, always on the alert, has been the backbone of a number of American military actions, from the Berlin airlift to Grenada. The Army says the exercise, costing some several $100,000, serves a number of purposes.
gives our soldiers an excellent opportunity to practice the skills and demonstrate them for the American public to show that their soldiers, in fact, are capable and can do the job.
The display of power had another purpose as well, to show some 5,000 ROTC cadets from across the country what the Army is all about. This demonstration exercise is the culmination of an intensive 6-week training program for the ROTC cadets.
We've had hands-on with a lot of this equipment, and this kind of brings it all together and shows us how it works.
I heard it was called the $1 Million Minute, and I don't know if it was worthwhile to show all the cadets all that firepower, but it was certainly impressive.
This exercise was canceled last year due to limited funds, but considering the training and publicity value of the exercise, the Army says it intends to make sure it remains an annual event. Bill Whitaker, WBTV News, Fort Bragg.
This is Channel 3, WBTV in Charlotte, North Carolina, the metropolis of the two Carolinas, the spearhead of the New South. Serving the nation's 19th market, WBTV is owned and operated by the Jefferson Standard Broadcasting Company, a subsidiary of the Jefferson Standard Life Insurance Company. WBTV is the Carolinas' pioneer television station. Our studios are located at 1 Julian Price Place. Our full-power transmitter is located on Spencer Mountain in Gaston County. WBTV serves an audience of 4¼ million, with network, film, and local programs tailored to their tastes.
Who's calling, please? Carolina calling. Put them on.
Well, it's a good morning, neighbors. Gotta greet you with a smile. Gotta have it, being happy. Say it's great to be alive. Carolina's calling you. Another day is breaking through. A good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, everybody. 7 o'clock. Once again, it's time to rise and shine with Arthur Smith and all the Cracker Jacks with Carolina calling. With songs by the Crossroads Quartet, Tommy Fail, Ray and Lois Atkins, Little Wayne Hass, Dave and Jim. And now to greet you with a smile, here's the head man of all these Cracker Jacks, Arthur Smith.
All righty. Thank you, Jim Patterson, and what a wonderful day has dawned here in the Carolinas again. I suppose getting up music is always in order to start the program, and that's what we propose to do. A Barnyard Symphony will be our first selection today. We want you to picture, if you will, and this is where we got the idea for this song, really. A bunch of chickens out in the backyard, you know, with the pasture enclosure or the fence enclosure, and pick out one special rooster and watch him kind of strut across the yard and then stop and scratch and look back. We think you'll see all of these in the third movement of this thing that we call... What's the name of it?
Chicken Strut.
Chicken Strut.